Every day I wake up, wake your ass up.
The Breakfast Club.
Y'all finished or y'all done?
We are the Breakfast Club. Let's get in some front page news. Last night, NFL, I don't know if you guys stayed up for the game, but the Texans beat the Steelers 30-6 last night. So, Steelers up out of here. Sorry, Pittsburgh. That was your team before.
It was, and I ain't gonna lie, I feel a little way. Damn, if the Ravens didn't win, I'm like, all right, the next team to root for me would be their rivalry, Steelers. But damn, 30-6 is crazy.
Yeah, 30-6, they up out of here.
Yeah.
What's up, Mimi?
Good morning, MB, Jess, Charlamagne. How y'all doing this
Peace,
morning?
Mimi Brown.
Hey, babe.
Good morning. You look cute, Jess.
Thank you, girl. Like, what?
All right, good morning. So we start this morning. We are still in Minnesota, where a large federal immigration raid, now weeks in and still ongoing, has sparked protests, outrage, and now a new lawsuit against the Trump administration. Now, the state of Minnesota and leaders in Minneapolis and St. Paul, they are suing the federal government, saying this immigration surge is going too far and it crosses the line. They're asking a judge to stop it. Now, Minnesota Attorney General Keith Ellison says the size and the tactics of the operation are not normal law enforcement, and they are frightening communities across the state. Let's listen to what he had to say.
Announce a lawsuit we're filing against the United States Department of Homeland Security to end the unlawful, unprecedented surge of the federal law enforcement agents into Minnesota, because this has to stop. It just has to stop. We allege that the obvious targeting of Minnesota for our diversity, for our democracy, and our differences of opinion with the federal government is a violation of the Constitution and of federal law. We allege that the surge's reckless impact on our schools, on our local law enforcement, is a violation of the 10th Amendment and the sovereign laws and powers of the Constitution grants to states.
Yeah, so a lot wrapped up in that lawsuit there. And it follows last week's fatal shooting of Minneapolis resident Renee Good during an ICE operation, a case that has intensified scrutiny of federal enforcement tactics. And it comes as federal authorities, they continue to flood the Twin Cities with agents. There are around 1,000 more custom and border patrol or border protection officers that are expected to arrive in the area. And that's already on top of the 2,000 federal agents that are already in the area. Now, officials say this is one of the largest immigration enforcement actions that Minnesota has ever seen. The Department of Homeland Security, they argue, though, that Minnesota leaders, they created this problem by refusing to fully cooperate with federal enforcement. And Minnesota, they are not alone. Illinois and the city of Chicago, they also filed lawsuits yesterday accusing the Trump administration of unlawful immigration enforcement tactics, including warrantless arrests and the use of chemical agents against people who are not resisting.
Question. I want to know how ICE was operating before. Like, how were they operating during the Obama administration? Because President Obama deported more than 3 million non-citizens. How was it happening back then? Because I don't remember it looking like this. Okay, this looks like complete chaos. No. It looks unlawful. It looks like these ICE agents have zero regard for anyone's life. Like, what did it look like before?
Yeah, I don't remember anybody ever pulling up on people and saying, "Are you from here?" and then taking you. I've never seen that before.
Yeah. And you have to remember in that big, beautiful bill, right, there was a lot of money given to ICE to do this enforcement. They're the largest funded police organization that, you know, we've ever seen at this point. Right now, they have more money than the FBI. So they have all the tools and the tactics right now to go and do this. So they're deploying an additional 1,000 troops or 1,000 federal agents in the area. That's a lot. 3,000, agents in Minnesota.
That's a lot.
Come on. Yeah, that's a lot. So
they don't even have real masks. Where the money going?
Oh, you mean those half masks?
Yes. Where the money going?
And let's talk about those $2,000 tariff checks that we've been hearing about. So President Trump, he's been floating the idea of that $2,000 rebate checks funded by tariff revenue for months now. But when Americans might actually see that money keeps changing, let's listen to what he had to say about the timeline now.
You promised $2,000 checks to Americans based off of your tariff revenues. When can
I did do that. When did I do that? Yeah, I'm thinking, I did 1776 for the military, right?
When will those Americans get those checks?
Well, I am going to. The tariff money is so substantial that's coming in that I'll be able to do 2,000 sometime, I would say, toward the end of the year.
Daddy not coming home, y'all. Listen, MAGA, Daddy is not coming home. I know he promised you that he was going to come home, and I know you believed him this time. He is not coming home this time.
I said what?
It's not happening.
I don't remember him saying
I know
that.
he said he was. I know Daddy said he was coming over, MAGA, but he's not coming.
I said what?
Okay, he's not.
I didn't say that.
Yeah, so there's still no, firm date on that. Now it's, it's mid-year. Now it's the end of the year. So Trump is arguing that those tariffs, they are bringing in massive revenue. He says that those checks would not need approval from Congress, but members of his own administration say that is not true. Congress would ultimately have to sign off on any payouts. But here's the bigger issue. The Supreme Court could rule as early as tomorrow on whether President Trump even had the authority to impose some of those tariffs in the first place. Now, if the court rules against Trump, companies that paid those tariffs, including Costco, which is suing the federal government, could be entitled to refunds. Now, Trump, he has been watching this closely. He wrote on social this week that if the Supreme Court rules against the United States on this national security bonanza, as he calls it, we are, quote, screwed. Now, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessick, he says even if the court does rule against Trump, the government has enough money to cover those refunds, but he doubts that consumers, us, the American people, that we would ever see any of that money. He says that companies will most likely keep those refunds and, distribute it how they feel free or see fit to do. But us, the man at the bottom, we will probably not see any of those tariffs.
Typical.
Refunds. Yeah, so we will see what happens with that. And coming up at 7, before you mail anything important, there is a quiet change that you need to know about, especially if a deadline is involved. We'll explain the details. That's coming up in the next hour.
Morning, everybody. It's DJ NV, Jess Hilarious, Charlamagne the Guy. We are the Breakfast Club. Let's get back in some front page news. Last night, NFL. The game last night wasn't a great game. The Steelers lost. Houston Texans beat them 30-6. All right. Now, what's up, Mimi?
Good morning, MV, Jess, Charlamagne.
Morning.
Hey, girl.
Peace, Mimi Brown.
All right, so we start this morning in New York City. Envy, you touched on this yesterday. So nearly 15,000 nurses, they are on strike. It's the largest nurse walkout in the city's history. And the strike, it began yesterday after contract talks. They broke down. Nurses, they walked off the job at 3 major hospitals. And at the center of this fight, pay, staffing, safety, and benefits. Now, the nurses union, they say hospitals, they are understaffed. They're leaving nurses stretched thin and patients at risk. Now, they're asking for higher pay, more nurses on the floor, fully funded benefits, and better protection from workplace violence. Now, hospitals, though, they disagree. They say the union's demands are too costly and that they've gone out and they've hired 1,400 temporary nurses to keep services running. Now, Mayor Zoran Mondami, he joined the nurses yesterday, saying the system rewards executives while frontline workers, they are struggling to make ends meet. Let's listen to some of what he had to say.
This strike is not just a question of how much nurses earn per hour. It is also a question of who deserves to benefit from this system. These executives are not having difficulty making ends meet. The CEO and president of Montefiore made more than $16 million last year. The CEO of New York Presby, where we are today, made $26 million last year. But for too many of the 15,000 Neisner nurses who are on strike, they are not able to make their ends meet. They are not asking for a multi-million-dollar salary. What they are asking for is for their pensions to be safeguarded, to be protected in their own workplace, to receive the pay and the health benefits that they deserve.
How are nurses' demands too costly? Like, they work alongside doctors. They are essential parts of healthcare teams. They care for patients. They coordinate treatment plans. They administer medication. How are their demands too costly? They're essential. Like, we need nurses.
Yeah. Absolutely. And so that is, exactly what the heart of this strike is about. Governor Kathy Hochul, she has declared a state of emergency, warning the strike could put patients at risk, and she's urging both sides to get back to the bargaining table.
Yes, there was a nurse that hit me yesterday. I don't know what her position is in all of this. I cannot find your DM. I've been looking for your DM since you hit me. You hit me and asked me if I could possibly go out there and DJ to keep morale up and keep the nurses hyped as they're out there on the picketing line. Please DM me back, because I would love to go out there and DJ as much time as I can. Whatever I can do to help. I mean, you nurses, you You really saved my baby. So whatever I can do to get out there and help, I will be there. Please DM me again. I've been looking for your DM for the last 2 days.
Nurses
and I
are
cannot
just
find
as
it.
important as doctors.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Like, because they literally, like I said, are an essential part of the healthcare team. They work alongside with the doctor. Like the doctor can't do all of the minute details that nurses do to make sure
Absolutely.
patients are cared for.
Well, the nurses are the one that come in every 30 minutes, every hour, check the
Yes,
vitals.
they
make
monitor
sure
your
you have
vital
IVs.
signs, yes.
They're the ones that hold it down, and the doctors come
Yes.
once every couple hours. But the nurses are the ones that hold it down. When I was sleeping at that hospital, they were the one that got me pillows, that snuck me extra
Yep.
blankets, that to make sure my kids were eating. Like, yes, like, nah, you got to take care of the nurses. Absolutely,
Yeah.
positively.
And not to mention during COVID, right? They were on the front lines coming in, just putting themselves at harm's risk before they would take care of us, before they would take care of their family. I mean, you know what I mean? So
And they're
it's
even
just-
doing that now with the protests, man. It's cold out there. It's like the flu going around. It's just it's unfortunate.
And then when they said they just called in hundreds of backup nurses. That's backup nurses?
That's
Who are these
crazy.
people?
Yeah.
Crazy.
All right.
They did. They definitely did that. All right. Well, you guys may remember this next story because NFL great Brett Favre, he was linked to it. So now, nearly 6 years later, that first trial in that massive Mississippi welfare fund scandal is now underway. So authorities say, do you guys remember this back in the day?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So authorities say at least $77 million in federal welfare money meant for low-income families was misused in one of the poorest states in the country. Now, those funds came from TANF, which is Temporary Assistance for Needy Family. The program was designed to help parents and children pay for basics like food, housing, and childcare. Instead, investigators say the money was funneled through nonprofits. It was spent on luxury expenses, cars, real estate, and even a college volleyball stadium. Now, Favre, he became tied to the case after officials say he received about $1.1 million from a nonprofit funded with that money. They say that he was paid for speeches he never gave. He has not been charged with a crime and says that he did not know that the money came from welfare funds, and he has paid the money back, but there is still about $228,000 in interest that's still going through the court right now. Now, the first defendant to go to trial, his name is Ted Diabasi Jr. He's a former professional wrestler. Prosecutors say he used fake contracts to steal nearly $4 million in welfare funds, spending that money on a boat, a vehicle, and personal expenses. Now, he denies charges and says he did legitimate work. He is the only federal defendant to go to trial. 7 others have already pled guilty, including John Davis. He is the former head of Mississippi's Department of Human Services. He admitted to knowing where the money was coming from and failed to stop it. He's now serving 32 years in prison on state.
Damn.
On state charges.
And to the last brother that called and said we need to report on, things happening on both sides, and he said ICE is doing what they're doing in Minnesota because of the fraud. Ask yourself, how come they're not doing that in Mississippi then?
Yeah. This story is not getting a lot of love. A lot of those defendants that I just spoke about, 7, they pled guilty, but they haven't been sentenced yet. John Davis is the only one. And he was, of course, running the Department of Human Services in Mississippi. He's the only one so far out of all those defendants who have been sentenced. So
And that's crazy because you taking away from people who already doing bad. That's wild.
yeah, $77 million happening in that fraud case. So we'll see what happens with that sentencing. And as he goes to court, that trial is expected to last about 3 weeks. And as that plays out in court, there's a change that you should know about involving the U.S. Postal Service. So on Christmas Eve, the U.S. Postal Service, they quietly changed how postmarks work. Did you guys hear about this?
I
No.
did.
Yeah, so your mail is no longer guaranteed to be postmarked the day you drop it off in that blue mailbox. So instead, the date on the envelope, it may reflect when it was processed at a mail facility, which could be the next day or even the day after that. So this matters because postmarks are often used to prove things that, things were sent on time, mail-in ballots, court filings, legal documents, even your bill payments, right? So that means that something that was dropped off on time could be marked late and even rejected. So the Postal Service says this is happening as it restructures mail processing and transportation schedules. But here's what experts are suggesting. If something has a deadline, do not just drop it off in the mailbox. Go inside to the post office, hand it to the clerk, and ask for a physical manual postmark. It's free, and it will lock in the date. They also suggest that if it's really important, that you want to mail that at least a week early. So
Yeah, that's how I came across this, because I read an article on PBS about how this will impact mail-in ballots.
Yes, it definitely will, right? Because a lot of states do mail-in ballots, and it has to be postmarked by the date in order to be counted. But if they're not processing it to a couple days later, or whatever that may look like, that's going to affect not only mail-in ballots, Charlamagne, but attorneys who have to file legal documents, right? I mean, your bills. It's going to be a growing problem as people find out. This just happened on Christmas Eve, so it's fairly new, but we'll see what happens as people start to really experience what this could look like.
Wow. Lord have mercy. Never a dull day in this country, huh, Mimi?
Never, ever a dull day, y'all. So that is your front page news. I'm Mimi Brown. Follow me at Mimi Brown TV for more stories. Follow the Black Information Network. Download the free iHeartRadio app or visit binnews.com.
Thank you, Mimi.
Thank you.
Now, also something I found out yesterday, if you're out of town and you have tints on your window, and you're in New York and you drive through New York and you have tints on your window, now it's 1 point on your license. Yeah, starting 2026. So now if you get pulled over and you have tints on your car, it is 1 point on your license, illegal tints.
Okay, I was going to say.
Before it was just a ticket, whatever ticket, but now they're putting points on your license. So if you get a certain amount of points, your insurance goes up, your license gets suspended.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Damn.
That is crazy. Well,
damn.
All right. Well, when we come back, French Montana and Max B will be joining us. They got a new project out right now. We're going to talk to them when we come back, so don't move. It's the Breakfast Club. Good morning.
Hold up. Every day I wake up, wake your ass up. The Breakfast Club.
Y'all finished or y'all done?